Welcome back to another episode of the High Vibration Reset. I'm your host, Ciara Conlon. In today's episode, I speak to Lauren McKeown. Now, Lauren is a health coach, a biokinesiologist, and an energy healer. And she helps people with both physical and emotional healing. Through her own burnout, she learned a lot about how the body heals. And in this conversation, we speak a lot about how emotion can cause particular ailments. We speak about some of my favorite topics, forgiveness and intuition, and also about how we can take steps forward to start to have more balance and alignment in our lives. So I hope you enjoy. And if you're not already following the podcast, please do so. Lauren, you are very welcome to the High Vibration Reset. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on the call. And I'd love, Lauren, if we can start with you just telling us a little bit about your story, because we met many, many years ago when you were working in media. And I came in as a coach. And your life has changed quite a bit since then. So
Absolutely.
if you
Yeah,
could tell us a
yeah.
little bit about you, about that transition, and and about what you do now would be great.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on. It's great to be here and to have this chat. My life has significantly changed, absolutely, since the days in media. And yeah, when I first started in media, I think I spent quite a long time trying to figure out what it actually was. I remember sitting there and being completely bamboozled by all of this new language, all of these ways of working. And it took me quite a while to find my feet. But after I did, I really got into the flow. I was working with an absolutely fantastic team. I had some of the best laughs in my life when I first started. Um, and I guess things started to move and shift and change when I moved to a new company. I was really hell bent on progressing my career at the time. I wanted to move up the ladder and, make more money, get more experience and more exposure to different clients. But I think the real turning point started to happen around 2018, 2019. And that was in line with a lot of things that was going on in my own life, I think. I think the foundations were beginning to shake underneath me, and it was showing up in all areas of my life. And I joined a team that was really hectic and really busy. I think in some senses, I had bitten off more than I could chew at the time. At service being completely the most demanding job in the universe, I think. And being pulled left, right, and center. When it came to, I think it was around early 2019, I was one of the longest serving members of my team, having only been there about 6 months. And I was juggling many different things. And I knew that it wasn't going to get any better. I knew that this wasn't for me after, as I said, enjoying it for so many years. It just wasn't as much in alignment with me at that time. And I decided to hand in my notice. And I handed in my notice with no other job to go to. That was how confident I felt about it not being right for me. I was like, okay, I don't have any time to waste here. And I'm just going to do it. If I have to go and work down in Centra, down in Dunleary, I will. I don't care. But I'd say about a week or two before I was due to finish up, I had a complete burnout. So it all got way, way, way too much. Um, as I said, clients were incredibly demanding. I was managing way too many of them. And I think the biggest thing upon reflection is that I had no boundaries and I couldn't say no. Um, and I did, I completely burnt out. And I remember it absolutely like it was yesterday. I sat on the dart home and I just was shattered mentally, physically, emotionally. I got home and I just sat in my room and I spent, I'd say, about a week in my room. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't watch TV. My nervous system was just completely shattered. And that for me was the turning point. I
And did
think,
you know, Lauren, what was going on? Like, did you
yeah, I
have that
did.
concept that you were burnt out?
Yeah, and it had been coming a long time, it really had. Um, and my own health was completely deteriorated at that point as well. I had been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease the year beforehand, and I just didn't know how to manage it. I didn't know how to manage myself. And it was all part and parcel of the same thing ultimately when I look back on it.
Too
My
busy.
body, huh?
You were too busy to manage it or to,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I just wasn't listening to my body, and it decided to really, really, really let me know that it needed some attention. So that was a big shock. It really was. I didn't know whether it was coming or going. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to turn to. So I took about a month off work, and I, at that point, I didn't want to go back to media. But I was also in a place where I couldn't really make decisions very well. So I had left that team. I'd left the client service world behind, and I was offered a position on an internal team in planning, in a planning team, basically. Luckily for me, the management team there were some of the nicest, kindest, caring, empathetic people I've ever met. And they really supported me, looked after me. I remember actually going in and saying, look, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And that was accepted and it was okay, which I was really surprised with. Uh, And you know what? I'm so glad that I took the job because it was a game changer in terms of being part of a team where you're really supported, where, you're not constantly rushing from one thing to the next without giving it any thought. Yeah, I had a great career there until I left in 2025. I really did enjoy it and I did manage to climb up the ladder, even though it was less important. It was far less important to me at that point. Really, what I loved was the people element to helping them, supporting them, coaching them, and getting to do something completely different that was more aligned to my values. So,
So
yeah,
that's what you said initially, if you don't mind me just picking
mm,
that up. So you said that you realized it wasn't in alignment. So this was pre-burnout. You had had that realization.
yeah,
And what did that mean for you?
not in alignment. I found advertising in general to be inauthentic in a sense. And I think I've spent a lot of time figuring out who I was. At that point, it was really starting all of the conceptions and ideas that I had about myself. I never really knew who I was. And I think that made it more difficult growing up in the world of media, so to speak, because I was afraid to speak my truth. I was afraid to be seen. I couldn't express myself properly. I didn't have the confidence in myself either. And I never really knew who I was. And I think when I burnt out, it was that beginning of, okay, well, you're starting from scratch here. You can't go on like you were going anymore because your health is my health was in absolute tatters at that point, and nothing was working. Relationships weren't working. The way I was treating my body wasn't working, and my mental health. So I think when I looked at everything overall, that was the piece of nothing is in alignment here anymore. What I thought I wanted isn't actually what I wanted, and I need to figure out the direction that I'm heading in.
Yeah. And you were able to do that when you went back in to a different team, which you had started to find your voice, I presume, and started to be more authentically you.
Yeah.
and that gave you
Absolutely.
space.
Yeah, that was it. And as I said, the management team there were so encouraging of that, and they helped me to find my voice, to express myself, to have a say, and for my opinion and my voice to matter. And that was actually a part of the role that I loved the most, because as I grew and developed myself and, became more my authentic self, that's the value I feel that I really added to the team as well. That was the part of the team I loved the most, was the people element, the coaching, the supporting. It's almost like sometimes being a part-time psychiatrist as well, or counselor, which in itself is challenging at times. But it was so rewarding, because I feel like when I worked for clients, it was all give, 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 and getting nothing in return. Whereas the return when managing a team is seeing them grow and develop and becoming more confident in themselves and doing the things that they were terrified to do like a couple of months ago. And, progress is made. And it's the human element that I love, not just the statistics and the returns and all of that.
So it does sound like you were really enjoying your job. So how did you get to the stage where you said, okay, I'm packing this in?
I think after I had the burnout, I realized, okay, media isn't the end game for me. And I had to go and embark on my own healing journey as well. And that healing journey is definitely still ongoing, but it led me to the energy healing side of things, to biokinesiology, to nutrition, and how that supports you in recovering and healing, managing autoimmune conditions. And I decided to do a nutrition and health coaching course in 2021. My sister had done it, I think, the year or so previously. And she was the one who actually had started guiding me to all of these more complementary, holistic, alternative ways of healing. Um, so I did the nutrition and health coaching course. And at the time, I was going to an amazing biokinesiologist. I'd never heard that word before I started working with her. And slowly, over, I'd say, the course of about 6 weeks onwards, I started to regain my health. I had been absolutely flatlined, had no energy, I had all the symptoms in the book, and I'd started to feel a little bit of hope and a little bit of light coming back in. When I did the coaching course, it was always with the foresight to doing the biokinesiology training. And that's, I guess, where things started picking up speed. And yeah, I didn't exactly have a date when I was going to leave, but the more I immersed myself in it, when I finished the course, I started taking clients on in my spare time, doing case studies, just getting as much exposure to it as I could. And it became very clear very quickly thereafter that this is exactly the space that I'm meant to be in, that really is in alignment with my purpose, like my reason for being here on earth, really. And that's when I knew, I would say 2024, I was like, right, this is it now. And it didn't take me too long to take the leap thereafter. So, yeah.
So it's like, you can sit around and wait knowing that the job isn't right for you. And Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know if you're familiar with him, his voice comes into my head where he always tells young people, just try shit. Try shit. You won't know until you try.
Yeah,
So if you
absolutely.
hadn't have, gone out and tried stuff to try and heal yourself, you'd probably still be sitting in an office
Absolutely. And
job.
in hindsight as well, like everything happened, I truly believe like everything does happen for a reason. I had to reach that really, really low point in my life for things to change because I wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't trusting my gut. And I was just pushing it all away, thinking everything will be fine. It's normal to feel this exhausted when you're only 30, but it's absolutely not. So I had to have a really big wake up call to put me on the right path. It just wasn't happening any other way. And I feel like the experiences that I've had now all very much help me when it comes to the work that I do. And they had to, yeah, exactly, to help others being the key point.
Tell us, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know what biokinesiology is.
Absolutely. It's definitely not a commonly known word. Biokinesiology is essentially a system of muscle testing the body to identify the biochemical imbalances. And those biochemical imbalances can be, I guess, the root cause of things like digestive issues, hormonal issues, infertility, chronic illness and disease, like a whole host of health issues, essentially. So we're looking and we're listening to the body to see where we need to address those chemical imbalances. So it could be a toxin. It could be, something like a bacteria, a virus that never has cleared, nutritional deficiencies. And yeah, essentially it's figuring out how we bring the body back into balance. And it's incredibly powerful. As I said, when I first started working with a biokinesiologist, that's when my symptoms began to change because the prescription medication wasn't doing anything for me. And I needed guidance. I needed lifestyle advice. I needed to know the foods that don't suit me, that are causing inflammation in my body. And I needed nutritional supplementation as well because my body was lacking in so many key nutrients at that point. Not only was I emotionally and mentally burnt out, my entire system was completely burnt out. So I needed support. Um, and it's incredible to see people come in, you know, even 4 weeks after their first treatment and saying, okay, that digestive issue that I had, that constipation or the, you know, heartburn or whatever, it's all starting to improve. Um, so, yeah, biokinesiology is an incredibly powerful tool to listen to the body and what it has to say. Um, yeah.
So you're looking for information, but are you contributing to the healing in any way, or are you getting information to help people to take action in other ways?
Yeah. So I guess the training in itself is fantastic because you go into the biochemistry of the body. You're looking at all of these different pathways, systems, organs, glands. And that's very much what informs and guides a session. So the muscle testing is our signal. So we're asking the body, okay, with this little toxin vial, are there toxins present in the body? If you place the vial on somebody while they're lying down on the bed and the muscle weakens, you're like, okay, yeah, there's toxins in there. So we can kind of get a bit of a sense of where the toxins are, whether they're down in the large intestine, the bladder, other pieces of the body, essentially. Um, and with the training that I have, it's also matching, okay, well, I know that to get rid of a toxin, I have, herbs, spices essentially to use. I have homeopathic remedies to use. If somebody's low in energy, maybe they need a big whack of B vitamins to give them a boost, and get in there. So it's very much like listening to the body and then using the knowledge, the guidance, and also the intuition as to what's actually happening and how can we bring you back into balance.
So it's a very good match between, your biokinesiology and your health coaching. So you can actually then, after diagnosing, point somebody in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. After, you're given your list of, not list, I don't want to say list, 2, 3, 4 max supplements to say, right, this is what's going to help to treat the underlying issues. And these are the foods that aren't doing you any favors for the moment. And we'll reassess in 4 weeks. So, the body needs time to heal. Unfortunately, I can't ever say it's a silver bullet in one session, but we're giving the body an opportunity to begin healing within those first 4 weeks.
And is there a particular type of person that you usually help, Lauren? Or is it anybody with any health conditions or fatigue or burnout?
I would say it can be anyone, but when I look at clients in general, overwhelm, anxiety, stress, and giving too much, having no boundaries actually sounds like me back in the day, but that seems to be quite common in terms of where that underlying baseline is. And then those symptoms manifest in many different ways. But emotionally, mentally, that's how a lot of people come in. They've been around the houses, they've tried the medical route, they've tried different types of healing, and they're still not getting down to the root cause. The symptoms haven't usually fully disappeared. And biokinesiology can sometimes be, okay, I'm going to give this one last go, or they'll have heard about it through somebody else. Um, and yeah, that is how it usually goes. And I work with a lot of kids as well, kids of all ages, actually. I'm very much on the emotional side for kids. Um, so I think kids these days have to deal with a hell of a lot more than we ever had to. So there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry. And that, again, is manifesting itself in many different ways, both outwardly in their lives and how they're acting and reacting, but also to what is manifesting then physically in their bodies as well.
Yeah, yeah, there's so much going on, isn't there? And okay, we all had it hard in our day, but I
Mm.
think it's particularly difficult in recent years for everybody, not just kids.
Yeah, for sure.
We're all struggling a bit with what's going on in the world or what's been going on for the last number of years.
Yeah.
Lauren, you also work as an intuitive healer.
Hmm.
So what does that involve? Or how did that
So,
come about?
how did it come about is right. As I said a little while ago, I spent many years ignoring my gut feeling, knowing that something was off, something was wrong, that I shouldn't be doing something, and not listening. And eventually, my gut really started screaming at me, as we spoke about. Um, and my intuition, I guess, once I started to listen to that gut feeling, it got stronger and it got stronger. And I began trusting my intuition more. So the more healing that I did, the more layers that I've peeled back, the stronger my sense of intuition has become. And I really deeply feel, is what I would say. So I've always been that way. Even as a child, it was very emotional. Um, Loved animals, like, took all my teddies into bed with me for fear of one of them being left out because I cared so much about how they might feel. Um, and yeah, as I went deeper with my healing, the more that that gift started to come online, is what I would say. So when I was doing the biokinesiology course, it was very much, the biokinesiology is very much focused on the biochemistry of the body. Okay. So it is kind of separate to the intuitive energy healing side of things, but then they very much come together too. Um, with the energy healing, I will sense from somebody the words that aren't being spoken. I'll get drawn to certain parts of the physical body that are holding on to emotional energy. I can sense when there is energy there that people are carrying that's not even theirs. So a lot of us carry a big, as I always describe it, it's like a big backpack full of other people's shite. So
Yeah.
we're walking around and we're weighed down by other people's problems, by other people's emotions, all of that energy. And unless we're all super conscious, super aware of it, we're never going to let it go. And that's a huge energy drain. So the way that I work now has completely evolved from, say, a year ago, from even 3 months ago to even a month ago. The more that I step into my alignment, generally speaking, when somebody comes to me, the conversation that we have at the beginning is the biggest clue as to what's really going on for them, and why they're experiencing what they're experiencing. So, it could be something like the breakdown of a relationship in their early 20s that was deeply hurtful and painful and traumatic that still hasn't shifted. And that's what's causing the digestive issues or contributing to them. It's, we're not able to let go. The colon is the organ that eliminates, that releases all of the waste and the crap that we're holding on to. When people are experiencing chronic digestive issues, there's always a big emotional element to it, something that needs to be processed, something that you're still holding on to. So that's the way that the sessions seem to flow these days, is the emotional and the energetic body needs to have a voice. It needs to express itself. And often it needs to let go of what it's been holding on to for so long, for the biochemistry of the body to start transforming. So it's amazing. Like, and as I said, I couldn't have written how it would turn out. I was very much intuitively guided to all of this. It has really just switched on, so to speak. But it's deeply, deeply powerful work. And I feel that the more healing that I have done, the more it enables me and empowers me to be able to help others on a deeper level as well.
But the more healing you have done, life has kind of pushed you or supported you
Yeah.
into more alignment, into being more yourself and getting more in touch with what you said, a gift. Now, do you see it as a gift or do you see it as something, we all have?
It is a gift and it is something we all have. It's both. And we all do, and I think really if we were, to tune into ourselves and to listen, even with your intuition, as women, we have an incredible sense of intuition. It's just often that we decide not to listen to it. Um, but I do believe we all have these inherent gifts. They just need to be unlocked. And that usually comes with the healing part of it. And it's like recently I've been going deeper into my own work, and it's been an incredibly challenging couple of years, probably longer if I were to look at it. And the pressure was really, really intense for quite a while. I was finding it difficult. Um, yeah, there was a lot going on for me. And I did some craniosacral therapy, which is another amazing tool to unlock further. And I was able to, I guess, get so deep into what I have been holding on to, not being able to forgive, not being able to let go. And almost instantly, it was like I was given the key to open another little box, which I call a gift. It's like you have gotten through this. You've, at times I thought I wasn't going to get through it because it was so difficult. And now that I have, I've been able to peel back this next layer, and I have received this wonderful gift that has completely transformed the way I work, even in the space of the last few weeks. So that's the way I look at it. We will always be rewarded, the more and more that we step into our own power and into our alignment.
The more we're willing to do the work.
Really? Yes, exactly.
And it's
Yeah,
scary, of course.
absolutely.
All of this stuff we've learned all our lives to box it off, to get on with it. I remember actually a craniosacral therapist saying to me the first time I lay in his bed, um, I feel like you're just holding it all. You're just keeping it all together, Ciara. And I remember being so angry and saying, of course I'm fucking keeping it all together. I'm the mother of 3 kids. I run my own business. And I was
Yeah.
just, and it's that sense we are. So
Hmm.
many people, not just women, are just trying to keep it all together so that we can get through the next day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
So it's hard
yeah.
to stop and look at this stuff.
Hmm. It is. And I think the thing is, you can keep on going and keep dragging yourself along. Sometimes you'll hit that brick wall where either your physical health, your mental or emotional health will just say, okay, stop. You cannot keep doing what you're doing, and you need to slow down, and you need to give yourself the love and attention and prioritize yourself. And I think a lot of people get that shock at one point or another where you're forced to take heed of what's happening in your life. And I guess that's why I do the work that I do, because I don't want people to feel alone. I don't want people to feel like this is normal to, go 90 miles a minute in the rat race, to neglect their health and feel like, oh, all of these digestive issues and this extreme fatigue that I experience every single day of my life and this emotional weight and burden that I carry are just a normal part of life. Because, yes, they're a normal part of life, but we can transform them when we have the right support around us and the right team of people around us. Even just being open and honest to say, I'm really struggling right now and I can't do all of this on my own. I need help. That's the first step to it. I get so many women in particular who come in to me and they're so emotional because they haven't even vocalized how they've been feeling, all that they've been holding on to, all that they're carrying for their families and for their friends and the people that they work with. And as you said, you just keep on going and going and going and you never stop until you realize I can't keep doing this. And even just the expression of that to one person in itself is deeply transformational because you've taken the first step to let somebody know I'm not okay and I need your help.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of people that will have experienced burnout like you or something, a more serious illness. Maybe it's MS, maybe it's cancer. And they're lucky enough to come out the other side. And a lot of people I've heard say it's almost the best thing that's ever happened to me
Hmm.
because it's what opens them up. It's what we spoke about this before we hit record about grief can be that one of those things that can open you for more healing.
Hmm.
And but what the message that you're trying to give, what a lot of people are trying to say, don't wait for that. Don't wait for that big event. There are ways when you start to see and hear the messages to reverse that so it doesn't go that far.
Yeah. Yeah. And just listen. That's a lot of the work that I do with people is dropping into the physical body. It's to come out of the thinking mind and down into the body and actually to spend some time listening to what the body has to say. So I think people think I'm mad sometimes. I'm like, introduce yourself to your bladder now, please. Say hi, I'm here. Maybe you've never even met before, because that's the thing. We don't typically connect in with our physical body at that level, but our body has a voice, our organs have a voice. They're holding on to different emotions, different traumatic experiences, pain, grief, sadness, sorrow. And once we start listening, you'd be surprised at what comes up, what you buried when you were a 10-year-old about something awful that happened in the playground in school. And that needs a voice, it needs to be heard, and it needs to be let go of. So yeah,
We need to
it's,
love and respect our bodies enough to listen, because
yeah,
healing happens
absolutely.
when we learn to love
Hmm.
ourselves, to appreciate what's going on, and to listen to all those little
Exactly.
signs. The little pains are telling us something.
Exactly. They are indeed.
So forgiveness, you mentioned forgiveness, Lauren. So this is one of the areas that I'm very interested in,
Hmm.
because in my experience, seeing with myself and with other people, that when we learn to forgive, we're doing ourselves such a, a service, a favor. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that.
I completely agree with you, Ciara. And it has taken me, honestly, until recently to get to this place. Um, and in the work that I do also, especially on the emotional element, resentment is the single most common emotion that will come up for people. And it's that lack of forgiveness, being unable at this point to forgive. Um, for me, it's been a journey to a point of being able to fully forgive. There's been a lot of anger, a lot of sadness. And I always kind of look at that when it comes to emotions. There's like the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg for me was a lot of anger, a lot of rage. But underneath that iceberg sat the sadness, the disappointment, the heartache and the heartbreak, the grief. Um, and the more that I started to peel back the layers of all of those emotions, which were physically manifesting in my body also, I felt a lot of pain, um, as well as the emotional side of things. Um, it enabled me to get to a place of acceptance. I couldn't forgive yet at that point, but I could accept things and I could accept people at a deeper level. And that for me was huge progress, because I didn't even think I could really ever get to a point of acceptance. Um, and it helped me to see things from a different perspective as well, you know? And like you said, when we're unable to forgive, it is really us who are suffering the most. And I really did feel that, because there was, as I said, so much heartbreak, so much sorrow, and the anger. I'm not generally an angry person, but it had started to bubble up and come out in places which I wasn't expecting. And most recently, again, from doing more work with craniosacral, for me, I find that really powerful to be able to really connect deeper in with my body and what my body has to say. Um, I was able to meet, I needed to go to a deeper level to be able to achieve that forgiveness. And as I said, I could really see things from a different perspective. And I was at a stage where I could accept what had happened, I would say. Pretty much related to my childhood. I'm being very evasive, but my childhood, I would say. Um, and just accept everything that had happened and to be able to really forgive. And I was so surprised that I had actually even been able to get to that place, because I really didn't think I would ever be able to. I had hoped I would, but I didn't think I'd ever be able to. So that for me was so hugely transformational. It was such a weight off my shoulders. And it has opened up another part of me, I would say, that has softened, you know? I'm not holding on to all of the crap anymore. And I'm able to accept my parents, I guess, for who they are, and for the relationship that we have. And I think things are going to be a lot easier now, because really it was me who needed to be able to let go and to accept and forgive, to move to the next chapter. Yeah.
And
And with that, go on.
was that a particular trauma that happened in childhood or just child
Um,
general?
childhood in general, I would say. Yeah, childhood in general. Which was challenging and difficult, very much so, and has taken me a lot of years of, I'd say, the last decade of healing to really get to this place. So, it's, when you reflect back on it, healing isn't, I don't think that there's any real end destination to it in a sense. I think it's a constantly evolving journey, and you'll unlock more and more as you go. And you'll be surprised at what, will meet you as you go along on your journey. But I always see it as an invitation. So when I can feel there's all these little triggers that are coming up and I'm feeling really angry or I'm this, that, or whatever, that's usually my prompt to look at this on a deeper level. Where's this coming from? What do I need to acknowledge and ultimately transform here? Because it's showing me something. Um, and therein, I think, lies the gift, like we were speaking about before we came on. Since, and this is very recent, since I've really been able to let all of this go, and God, I was holding on to so much. It really, really was. It's shaped so much of my life. Once I was able to let go and forgive, the, my intuition, the way that I work has evolved literally overnight. So much more has been coming through. The way that I'm working with people is on a much deeper level for those who are ready to go deeper. I'll always meet people where they're at. That's important to say. But for those who, are maybe on their healing journey and are ready to go deeper, it's like I am now more equipped, I guess, to bring them on a deeper healing journey as well. And that fills my heart with so much joy and so much happiness, love. Happiness isn't even a big enough word for it. So much excitement for the work that I do, because I can see how transformational it is for other people. To be able to go to a deeper level and open up
Mhm.
and, you know, let go of what you've been holding on to for so long, you know?
Absolutely. What I find as well, over the years, and my story would be a little like yours. I used to give my teddy bears a turn at coming into bed with me.
Ah,
Put them all in, yeah.
that's cute.
But it took me many years longer than you to understand that I had, that ability, that feeling, that knowing that comes. But where I find it can be very useful when we're helping others is that most people have a story that they've adopted, reasons that they think they do things or reasons why they're a certain way. And we can get caught up with their stories if we don't, come back into ourselves and our intuition to know and to feel that that's not the reason why. So it can help you to guide your clients in a different direction, one that they never knew was the reason why they feel that way or the culprit for their symptoms. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
can
And
be.
we're all like, I'm guilty of having a story. And I think, and probably many of them as well. And I think that's why having the support and the guidance from somebody else that you trust, um, is so important. Because when you're so involved in your own story and your own script, you can't see outside of that. So a lot of the times it may take you your entire lifetime to realize it, or you'll never fully realize it because that's just the norm. And I think they're in like that those points where I've had that person who can point these things out to me and help me to see it from a different perspective have been hugely transformational. And those little light bulb moments of like, oh yeah, oh my God, how did I never see this before? Yeah.
Absolutely. So, as you say, we all have our stories and many of them because it helps us to function in the world. It
Mm.
gives us a sense of self, even if it's not perfectly true, and an identity. So, how, Lauren, has your identity shifted from, 5, 10 years ago to now when you feel fully aligned in who you are and what you're doing?
That's a good question. And I think about it often because I think it's really important to reflect on how far you've come. And, if I look back to when I was, say, 25 and I just moved to Dublin, I just started off my corporate world career, I don't even recognize the person that I was. I lacked such confidence, I had such low self esteem. As I said, I didn't know my place in the world. It was really just trying to figure it all out. And I was trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be, or who everyone else wanted me to be from my own perspective. Not that they were pushing things on me, but that's the way I felt at the time. And now I have so much more love for myself. And that's a really, really big thing for me because for so long I really didn't love myself. And it was really sad, really, really sad. Um, I hold myself with so much more value as well. And I really know how strong I am. And I really don't give a shit what other people think about me. It's the biggest thing because for so, 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 so long, I cared so much about what other people thought about me.
I love it.
And, I have a lot more belief in myself than I did. Still struggle with a little bit, I would say. But that all had to be part of my story. I really do believe that because it is what has guided me to do the work that I do today. Um, and I'm really amazed at who I have become and who I am going to become because I know that this is going to continue to evolve. And it's really exciting. Um, and all of that had to be let go of, the caring what people think, the, fearing the judgment of others, really, and the lack of belief in myself, the fear of being seen, the fear of being heard, all of that has to be let go of to really embrace the person that I actually am, like my true soul essence, so to speak. Um, and the more that I embrace myself for who I really am, the more everything else just kind of aligns. And yeah, it's a pretty amazing journey to be on. It really is.
And I love your answer because it reminds me of something I heard recently enough that your purpose is not who you are, it's how you are.
Mm.
So you speak about self love, about respecting yourself, about loving yourself, and it's all that how you show up in the world. It's how you're being every day. Um, so that's a lovely way to summarize it. I want to go back to something you said earlier, which was about the gut and the stomach and problems that we have in our bodies that are very often linked to particular areas of emotion or hurt.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, can you talk to me a little bit about that, about what you see in the different areas of the body?
Um, this is the part of the work that I really love the most. So over time and throughout our life, here while we're in the womb, even before we come into existence, so to speak, we can be holding on to energy. So, energy that we've inherited from our parents while we're in the womb, even at a preconception stage, to right back to what we take on through our family bloodlines. Um, so, we're coming into the world sometimes with energy that isn't necessarily ours, right? Um, as we go throughout our life, all of the experiences that we have from, you know, the argument that we have in, fifth class with our best friend, to our first relationship and the guy that broke our heart, to the death of a loved one or parent, right? To even the most insignificant of things that happen, the mundanity of life, the emotions that we experience. So whether that's, and it's the negative emotions mainly that I'm talking about, from the love unreceived to the self abuse to the rejection, the unforgiveness, the self, the worthlessness. All of these emotions, even if we experience them and feel them only for a couple of seconds, if we feel them with real intensity, that emotion can get stuck and trapped in the body. And the way I like to see it is like your body is like an engine. So it has to run on energy, so to speak, or some sort of fuel. The thoughts that we think, whether they're positive or negative, are going to fuel our body. They're going to result in either positive or negative experiences that we have in our life as well. So when that energy becomes stuck and trapped in the body, it can manifest around different systems and organs. So the colon, like we spoke about earlier, can hold a lot of grief, a lot of sadness and sorrow. The liver in Chinese medicine it's described as the seat of anger. So the liver can hold a lot of rage, a lot of frustration. Your kidneys can hold the emotion of being peeved or pissed off, like most people say. Um, and, the feeling of being unsupported right down around your lower back as well. So what we're working with is, again, listening to the body, because if those organs and systems are congested, so to speak, if they're not getting the right fuel, they're not going to be functioning properly. So we want energy to be flowing seamlessly all up and down around our body, to every single cell, to the DNA of our body. And when it doesn't, that's when symptoms of illness can arise. And by releasing this energy from the body in a very gentle way, it's giving those organs and systems a chance to function to 100%, so to speak. So a lot of clients that I work with, for example, I had a lady that came to me, had a real tightness in her chest, and felt like no matter how much breath work she did, she wasn't able to take a full breath. And when we sat down and had a chat about it, I said, okay, well, like, what's been coming up for you? Like, is there anything that's pretty present for you, in the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks? And she started talking about a family member who had passed away a number of years ago, and didn't necessarily put two and two together. This is just the way things evolve and the way things come up. So when we went into doing the actual work itself, it turned out that a lot of what she was holding was around the heart and around the lungs. And it was all that grief and the sadness and the sorrow. And as we began to work through it, in instructing the body to release and let go of it, she began to breathe on a more deeper level. And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I think she was just shocked that, this level of emotional debris, so to speak, that we've been holding on to for so long is what's actually causing a physical manifestation of symptoms. A lot of people would think, oh, well, I've lung disease, or, I have this, that, or whatever that's going on. But it can often just be the emotional weight that we're carrying.
So also it can be people who have pain in a certain area. They've been to the doctor, they've been to other practitioners,
Yeah.
but they're not
Yeah.
finding anything wrong with them.
Yeah. And that's it exactly. Last week I had a client in who has been experiencing really intense pain down the right side of her body, particularly the lower back, down through the leg, into the feet. And she's an osteopath herself, so understands the dynamics of the physical body, but she felt that there was something deeper going on. Um, and we did the practice of really tuning down into the body, breathing into the body, coming out of the thinking mind, which, as you said, has all our stories of this, that, it could be this, that, or whatever. And we gave the hip in particular a voice. You know, what's going on down there? What are you holding on to? And once the client tuned into her hip, the answers started coming. You know, lots of family related things, things, you know, where she felt she hadn't been heard, not respected, finding it hard to move on from what had happened. And the deeper that we got into it, you know, we started working with the entire leg, what you're holding in the knee, you know, and everything started to move and shift and loosen and relax. You know, it's letting go. Um, so yeah, it's the interesting thing about this work is that it doesn't matter how many things you try, how many pills you take, how many stretches you do, sometimes it's something that's seated on a deeper level and it needs to be acknowledged, needs to be heard in order for it to release and for you to
So
get better, so to speak.
I'm sitting here, Lauren, getting emotional because the moment you said there about the osteopath that came and you said we spoke to her hip, just as you said that, the word fear popped into my head because I had a hip replacement 4 years ago on my right hip. And for the last month, my left hip has been bothering me.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And of course, the first thing is, here we go again. But there's no
Yeah,
reason for me to believe that that's the case. So thank you. You've given me a little healing here in and pointing me towards the right direction to tune
yes.
in to my body.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to what that hip of yours has to say.
So, and that's how powerful this can be. And that's how, when we just allow that. So I know now, while you were speaking, I started to feel emotional. The word fear popped into my head. So in previous years, I wouldn't have even noticed that had happened. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
given any, credence to the fact that the word fear popped into my head. Now I know that that's a serious message that I need to follow up with.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I'll probably do a little bit of journaling about this or,
Hmm.
have a sit or a contemplation when I
Yeah.
meditate next. So that allows us to follow through. So I just want to say that to anyone listening, our messages can come in any shape or form. And the more we recognize them and acknowledge them, then we can be open to seeing them more frequently. Because I think it's so important that everybody learn to get in touch with their intuition. Because if they do, there's no self doubt. There's, well, not none, but a lot less of the self doubt and the overthinking and all of those things that plague our days. Um, yeah. So, in terms of, you've moved recently, Lauren, to Kinsale. So Kinsale is in Cork, in Ireland. Anyone who's not in Ireland, beautiful, beautiful town, and you work in person there.
Yes, I do. So I am 8 weeks down here today after making the big move from Dublin. And yes, I am working from a beautiful place down in Kinsale in the naturally balanced wellness. Um, business, I suppose, is what I'd say. Working from there on Tuesday mornings and also from the Carrigaline Wellness Centre on Wednesdays. So that's alongside doing all of my online appointments. But I'm really excited to be back doing in-person appointments because there's nothing like the human connection, seeing people face to face and getting to know people as well. So yeah, I'm excited to be back doing the in-person sessions.
So if you're listening and you're anywhere near the south, get in touch with Lauren.
Yeah, please do. I'd love to meet you.
And you don't have to be in the south because you do also online sessions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they work exactly the same way. I think some clients actually love the online experience because they can get all comfy and cozy in bed and not have to go anywhere afterwards. So,
I
yeah.
had biokinesiology with a woman in Australia. So
Did you? Wow. That's been cool.
yeah. So you don't have to
See,
be in the same room.
no, yeah, absolutely don't. Not even at the same time zone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Lauren's website, details will be below. It's laurenmckeown.ie. So definitely check her out. For someone so young to be so wise is very admirable. It's been
Ciara.
a fabulous conversation, Lauren. And yeah, I'd love to hear a lot more, but I wish you the best of luck with what's coming next and unlocking more of that gift that you have.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ciara. It's been so lovely to connect with you today.
So thanks for listening in. And remember, if you are anywhere near Kinsale in the south of Ireland, near County Cork, check Lauren out, go visit her, say hi, reach out to her. Or if you're interested in having a session with her, all of her details are below in the show notes. So as always, please share the podcast with your friends and family. Make sure you're following, rate us with some stars, preferably 5, and have a wonderful inner day.